What exactly is Bitcoin XT, and why do developers see such a need for it?
So the whole conversation centers on exactly how does Bitcoin scale. So supporters of Bitcoin would like to see it grow as big as a platform as, for instance, Visa. And for that to happen, basically, some of the technical characteristics of Bitcoin have to change, they argue. And there are two camps that some of them agree that this technical change is necessary and others disagree, and this is the result.
Now, Anthem, you're against this. Why?
Well, my main reason, Emily, is because you have really two outlier programmers, I would say, that don't have PhDs, and you have a consensus of core programmers, dozen that do, and there hasn't really been sufficient peer review. There's a big consensus with the core developers that this has been rushed, and I think we're seeing that from the lack of adoption so far with the miners. At the end of the day, this is all a big experiment. We'll see what happens, but that's my main reason from a non-core programming standpoint. I'm not a programmer, but I like to listen to PhDs and the experts, so that's very important to me.
All right, well, James is something of an expert. You know, James, this has been described as a real threat to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's MySpace moment, potentially. What do you think?
Well, think of this really as kind of the Y2K of Bitcoin, a moment where, gee, we didn't plan ahead to where this computing technology would need to grow and scale beyond our initial aspirations. So Bitcoin is actually going to hit a wall. It's just a question of whether or not after that wall, whatever solution they come up with in the meantime can be done quickly enough to inspire enough confidence among the broader community so that when that wall is passed and we're past the hurdle, there's still a Bitcoin business instead of, like, as you referred to MySpace. You know, MySpace was one of the first social networks, and now it's basically gone because it couldn't make it past its early growth phase. There is a risk that if Bitcoin doesn't solve this problem, they will be in a similar situation.
So what about that wall, Anthem? What is the opportunity here for other digital currencies? I mean, there are many people who are saying that a cryptocurrency is the future, but maybe it's not Bitcoin.
Well, I think one of the big things people like about Bitcoin is the fact that it's immutable, so it can't be changed in terms of the ledger, and also that the idea that there's a fixed number of Bitcoin and block size. And so I think one of the issues is that by increasing the number of transactions per block, it ultimately will lower the price of the Bitcoin, small b, the currency, because ultimately more transactions will go through. So Bitcoin is layer 0. We've seen other layers. Counterparty is what our product, our beta product, Hyatt Gold, is built on. So it's just like the internet. There are multiple layers, and I think it's really important that we have stability and we do things in a very smart, intelligent, best practices way. And that's where I think getting these PhD core developers, we have to really understand why is it that they're not on board. And I don't think that that's really clear yet.
James, is this essential to Bitcoin becoming more of a mainstream currency? Like, if this doesn't happen, is Bitcoin, could Bitcoin see its end?
You know, I don't disagree with Anthem about trying to do it right. I do, however, feel very concerned that we're not just talking about a technology issue or even a financial issue. There is a psychological issue. The people who have decided over the last 3-4 years that Bitcoin is something that they're going to trust, they have to maintain that trust. And so there is a tension between the technology. If we take too long to solve the technology, but the trust disappears in the meantime, that is a problem. And it does open the door for other people to say, okay, Bitcoin was good. It taught us some things. It helped us realize that in fact alternate currency is a real viable thing, but now we're going to move on. And I think that's the existential risk that Bitcoin is up against.
And the price has plummeted now. It's just over $200. You know, should we read anything into that?
Well, it's actually been in decline for quite some time now. So, you know, from its peak of close to 1,000 just a few years ago, when people have started as any kind of a fever that catches the market, it goes up, it then levels out as people get more realistic about it. I think Anthem's point is a good one, that if we don't solve this problem, or if we solve it with a technology that actually loosens the supply, we know what happens when you loosen monetary supply, it devalues the currency, and that is a real risk here.